Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the very first video in my new series, my top 5 worst cities and towns in a certain state series. In this video, I'm going to be covering my home state, Oregon. This is a great state that I live in with a lot of popular and good cities, with Portland, Oregon being one of the largest and most popular cities here in the state, which is the city I live right next to, as well as other many major cities here, such as Bend, Oregon, a popular city for a lot of Oregon residents and people who live in the Pacific Northwest, especially when it comes to the summertime, as well as the county in which Bend is located in, Deschutes County. Plus Eugene, Oregon, home to the University of Oregon and the Oregon Ducks. Personally, I'm not affiliated with either Ducks or Beavers. I don't go to any of those universities. As well as Medford, Oregon, which is home to a Crater Lake and is also right next to Ashland, Oregon, another great city in the state of Oregon, and plus Seaside, Oregon, another great coastal city, or should I say town, here in the state of Oregon, where one of my favorite actors was raised in. Yeah, Oregon has a lot of good cities and a lot going forward, but it also has some of the worst cities and towns in the nation, and that proves that no state, including the state of Oregon, is perfect. That being said, here are my top 5 worst cities and towns in the state of Oregon. Number 5, Ontario, Oregon. Ontario is an eastern Oregon's town, very close to the border between Oregon and Idaho. It's hours away from Portland, Oregon, the biggest city in the state of Oregon, and its closest major city, Boise, Idaho, is almost an hour away to the east. If the fact that Ontario, Oregon is isolated, a very isolated town, is not enough for you to reconsider moving to or visiting Ontario, Oregon, then get this. The crime rate in Ontario, Oregon is much higher than the majority of cities and towns in the state of Oregon. It doesn't have much to offer except a few museums, hiking trails, and parks. The average household income is just below the state average, and from what I've heard, the only thing good Ontario, Oregon has going for it are the public schools. They have pretty good public schools there. But honestly, even with the public schools, Ontario, Oregon is not worth your time to visit. It's best you leave this Malheur County town alone. Number 4, Roseburg, Oregon. Another isolated town, this time in southern Oregon. Roseburg is 1 hour away from Medford, Oregon, the largest city in southern Oregon, and 39 minutes away from Medford's neighboring town, Grants Pass. It's a very dangerous city, and according to Nick Johnson, it ranks as the 8th most dangerous place to live based on the FBI, and it has the 3rd highest property crime, at least in the state of Oregon. It has very low employment and employment opportunities, and the only good thing going for Roseburg, Oregon are, much like Ontario, Oregon, the schools, and because of its warm climate, it's a very nice place to retire. And it also has great scenery, another great thing going for it for people who want to retire in the state of Oregon. And of course, the scenery does make it a nice place to visit, but it's definitely not a good place to move to, if you ask me. Number 3, Hermiston. This Oregon town is seriously lacking when it comes to safety. And on top of that, it has the 11th highest unemployment rate in the state of Oregon. In fact, the largest employer in Hermiston is Walmart. Not only is there a Walmart Supercenter in Hermiston, but it's also home to the one and only Walmart distribution center in the entire state of Oregon. Now, I did check Glassdoor.com. Walmart distribution center employees actually do earn a fair sum. They earn $18 to $22 an hour, which is surprising, especially considering the fact that Walmart is notorious for paying their workers low wages. However, they pretty much have to pay their workers $18 to $22 an hour, especially in the state of Oregon when they work at a distribution center, considering the fact that their one and only distribution center in Oregon is in a very isolated town. Very, very isolated. In fact, it's hours away from Portland, Oregon. It's almost 4 hours to Bend and 4 hours to Boise, Idaho. There isn't much good going for Hermiston, Oregon, except for the fact that it is close to Pendleton, which isn't a great city, to be honest, but it is home to one of the many things that wild Westerners are into, rodeos, that kind of thing. And it's also home to the birthplace of Pendleton Woolen Mills, one of the biggest and most well-known woolen mill shops in the state of Oregon. Number 2, Cave Junction. Another isolated town, this time, unlike the previous entries, suffering from poverty and bad public schools. On top of that, this town is very boring. It doesn't have much to do other than the fact that there are a few good parks there and some national parks. I mean, there are some good things going for it. I mean, there are, like I said, there are national parks. It has a low crime rate and cheap homes. But honestly, it doesn't have much going for it. It's very close to the border between Oregon and California, but it's hours and hours away from any popular destination in California. And on top of that, its closest major city in Oregon, Medford, Oregon, is an hour away to the east. If at all possible, if you actually like living in bad towns or cities, you best live in Grants Pass. I mean, it's only 30 minutes away from Medford, Oregon, and even though it's kind of a bad and boring city, it's not as bad as Cave Junction, especially when compared to Cave Junction, as a matter of fact. And our number one spot goes to Madras. Honestly, I should have named this the 5 most isolated cities and towns in the state of Oregon, because taking into consideration the fact that all of the other cities and towns I've mentioned on this list are isolated and almost an hour or more than an hour away from another major city in the state of Oregon, Madras is no different. It's an hour away from its closest major city, Bend, Oregon, which is to the south of Madras, and 30 minutes away from Bend's neighboring city, Redmond, also to the south. It doesn't rank well in crime. In fact, it has the 9th highest crime rate and 17th highest number of violent crimes in the state of Oregon. The unemployment rate here in the state is very bad. It has very low home values, and before you say that low home values is something that's good, you know for a fact that when it comes to very low home values, that reason is almost always never good. Much like how in Cleveland or in Detroit, there are very low home values in those cities, but that reason is never good, and the same is for Madras. It's because almost no one wants to live in this place. The only good things going for Madras is it's home to the Erickson Aircraft Collection, and it has beautiful scenery. But honestly, folks, if at all possible, you best move to Bend or Redmond, Oregon. Well, folks, that concludes my 5 worst towns and cities in the state of Oregon video. If you don't live in any of these cities or towns mentioned on this video, be thankful that you don't. But if you do, well, I mean, look on the bright side. I did point out a few good things about each city or town mentioned on this list. But if at all possible, if you have the opportunity to, you should move to a better city or town in the state of Oregon. I can list a bunch of those for you. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit that like or subscribe button, and stay tuned for more videos on your favorite and least favorite cities and states.